Okay, I want you to imagine a playbook, just for a second. But I don't mean one of those PDFs you download for, 5 ways to crush your morning routine.
No, something much more serious.
Much more serious. I'm talking about a survival guide, a literal, honest-to-God algorithm for advancement.
And not just for a single person's life. We're talking about a strategy for a whole bloodline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's the hook, and I have to say, when I first read the brief for this deep dive, it sounded a bit like science fiction.
It really does. It has that epic, multi-generational feel to it.
It does. We are talking about a strategy, a very specific set of rules that was conceived and then executed over 250 years.
Think about that time frame. That's older than the United States itself.
Right. It spans the legal whip of slavery, the absolute chaos of the Civil War, the deep uncertainty of Reconstruction, Jim Crow segregation, and it lands perfectly intact in the life of a man living in Georgia right now, today.
It's an absolutely fascinating case study. We are looking at what we'd call a multi-generational algorithm, a piece of social software passed down through blood.
So welcome to the deep dive. Today we are unpacking the story of the Black Lyons lineage.
It's a powerful story.
It is. We're tracing a family of free and freed African Americans who originated from Maryland and Virginia, and we're attempting to draw a straight, unbroken line from there to a modern descendant named Stephen Antoine Boswell.
And we should be clear, we have a serious stack of documents to get through. This isn't just speculation.
Not at all. We have a corrected biography of Stephen Boswell himself, which he authored.
Which is key. He's the archivist of his own story.
We have historical records from the Virginia Department of Historic Resources on free Black communities. We have deep genealogical analysis of the Lyons lineage itself, and some, honestly, gritty records about labor on the Blue Ridge Tunnel and Virginia railroads.
So we have the personal narrative and the hard historical data to back it up.
But I have to play the skeptic for a moment. We see these connect-the-dots stories all the time. My great-great-grandfather was a baker, and I like toast, so it's destiny. Is that what we're doing here? Or is there real rigor to this claim?
That is absolutely the right question to ask, and that's precisely why we aren't framing this as just a biography. We are framing it as a strategic analysis.
This strategic analysis.
We are testing a thesis that the sources themselves call the go-grow strategy.
Go and grow. It sounds a little bit like a marketing slogan from the 2000s.
It does, but in practice, it was deadly serious. It was a matter of life and death. Go refers to gaining leverage by infiltrating critical societal systems.
What kind of systems?
The big ones. Rail, church, school, the military. It's about leaving the safety of your own community to enter the machinery of the state and the economy.
And grow.
Grow is the defensive part of the strategy. It's the biological and network defense, building a massive family legacy to create an unshakable network of kin.
Why was that so important?
It's based on a simple, brutal truth of the 1700s and 1800s. If the law will not protect you, your bloodline has to.
Your family is your government. Your family is your police force.
And your insurance policy and your bank.
Yeah.
Everything.
And the man at the end of this long line, Stephen Boswell.
Yeah.
The argument from the sources is that he is the living seed.
Exactly. The claim we're examining is that he isn't just successful by accident or even just through his own hard work. He is successful because he is running a code, an algorithm written by his ancestor.
Okay, I'm listening. But to believe that, to even entertain it, we have to
Yeah.
understand where this code came from. We have to go back, way back.
To the very beginning.
Part one is the historical playbook. We're talking free persons of color from the 1600s all the way to the 1850s.
And we have to start by, I think, destroying a myth that a lot of us carry around. We tend to think of early American history in this simple binary. You were either white and free or you were Black and enslaved.
Right. It's a very clean, simple line.
A simple but incorrect line. There was this third group. The sources we have call it the third caste.
The free Negro in Virginia.
Yes, a group that existed in this incredibly precarious legal and social space.
I can't imagine that was a comfortable position to be in. You're not one thing and you're not the other.
Uncomfortable is putting it so lightly. It was terrifying.
Mm.
You are walking on legal and social eggshells every single day of your life.
How so?
Well, you aren't enslaved, so you have some autonomy. You can, in theory, own property, make contracts, but you don't have the rights of a citizen. You're living in a society that is fundamentally designed to own people who look just like you.
So every white person you meet is a potential threat. They could accuse you of being a runaway slave.
At any moment, and the laws were constantly shifting under their feet. It wasn't a stable platform to build a life on.
What do you mean by shifting?
Well, look at the early 1700s. Manumission, which is the act of a master granting freedom to an enslaved person, was actually getting harder. In 1723, Virginia passed a law that basically said a master couldn't just free a slave because he wanted to.
Wait, really? The government had to approve it?
The governor and the council had to sign off. They wanted to control and limit the growth of this third caste. They saw a large free black population as a threat to the stability of a slave society.
So the government was actively bottlenecking freedom.
Precisely. But then things change. Around 1782, in the Revolutionary era, with all the talk of liberty and freedom in the air.
The ideals of the revolution.
Exactly. The laws relaxed, manumission became easier, and you see a surge in the free black population. But,
Right.
and this is the absolute key, your freedom was incredibly fragile.
What could take it away?
Almost anything. One unpaid debt, you could be sold back into slavery to cover it. One minor crime, real or imagined, you could be sold south. The sources even note that proximity to northern ports and trading vessels was vital. It was an escape route.
So if you are a Black Lyons ancestor in, say, 1790, you can't just live. You can't just wake up and go to work.
No. You have to strategize every single day. You are playing a high-stakes game where one mistake doesn't just end your life, it ends the game for your entire lineage.
So let's get into the strategy, the playbook. Element 1 has to be the path to freedom. How do you even get out of the system?
The sources talk about the Lyons family migrating from the white Lyons families of Maryland and Virginia, but practically speaking, for an enslaved person in 1800, how do you get free?
What are the mechanisms?
Well, sometimes you got lucky. As we said, manumission. Maybe for meritorious service, maybe you were related by blood to the owner, which was very common.
But that's luck. That's not a strategy.
No, it's not. The most impressive mechanism, the one that requires the most incredible discipline and foresight, was self-purchase.
Buying yourself.
Buying your own body from your owner, the concept of freedom of contract.
Okay, let's dig into the economics of that for a second. Because I think people hear that phrase, oh, he bought his freedom, and they just gloss over it. With what money? They weren't getting paychecks.
This is where we get into the really gritty reality of it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at what was called the custom of the country. In many places, once an enslaved person finished their forced labor for the master, usually from can see to can't see, so sunrise to sunset, their time was, theoretically, their own.
So we're talking about working at night after a full day of back-breaking labor.
We're talking about the famous cornfield anecdote involving Anthony Johnson from way back in the 1600s, which kind of set a precedent. He basically told a white man, I know mine own ground. Enslaved people would raise a few chickens, cultivate a small patch of vegetables, or weave baskets by firelight.
And then sell that to whom?
Yes, they would sell that produce back to the plantation owner, or at local markets on Sundays, which was often a day off. Now, I want you to imagine the math here, just for a second. You are selling eggs for pennies, or a bushel of corn for a few shillings. The price of a prime male field hand in 1850 could be $1,000 or more. That's the equivalent of a luxury car today.
That's decades of selling eggs.
It is an agonizingly slow accumulation of capital. You are saving for years, hiding coins under a floorboard, praying you don't get robbed, praying the person who holds your note doesn't die or sell you just to buy your own body.
And it gets worse, right? Because once you're free, you're not done.
You're not done. Maybe you buy yourself, but your wife is still enslaved. Now you have to start all over again to buy her. And then your children are born into slavery. You have to buy them. It's a mountain that never stops growing.
So when we see these names in the records, like Isaiah Lyons, born around 1793, or James Lyons of Flat Rock, born in 1798, these aren't just names on a page. These are the victors of a brutal economic war.
They are the ones who made the impossible math work. But once you are free, you have a brand new, equally terrifying problem. How do you stay free?
Which brings us to strategy element 2, the pillars of security.
And the absolute biggest pillar, the bedrock of everything, is land. The sources say it perfectly. Land as liberty.
I was reading about a woman named Vicey Skipwith in the notes. Her story really stood out to me.
Vicey is a phenomenal example of this entire strategy in one person. The record says she was a cook.
And we shouldn't just gloss over the word cook.
No. In the hierarchy of enslaved labor, a cook was high value, a skilled artisan.
Why is that?
Because you trust a cook with your life, literally. You eat what they make. A good cook was essential to the running of a large household. They managed supplies, they understood preservation, It was a position of immense skill and trust.
So she had a valuable trade.
A very valuable trade. And Vicey takes her earnings, again, likely from selling extra services or goods on her own time, and she purchases over 6 acres of land.
6 acres. A single free Black woman in the 19th century. That is a massive statement.
It's a declaration of permanence.
Yes.
And she didn't buy it for the view. She was building what the source material calls a home place. This is a crucial term.
What does that mean? A home place. It's more than just a house, right?
So much more. It was a fortress, an economic and social sanctuary. This is where you see the creation of these Black-owned enclaves, like the Magruder community the texts mention, or a place called Santo Domingo in Maryland.
So what's the strategic value?
If you have land, you can grow your own food. If you can grow your own food, you don't need to beg white employers for work, especially during a famine or a downturn. It gives you economic independence. The source quote is perfect. Land ownership brought Black culture closer to individualism. It was the ultimate proof of agency.
But to buy that land, you needed the cash flow in the first place. Which brings us back to the importance of a trade.
Mastery of a trade. You had to be useful. If you were undeniably useful to the white economy, you were safer.
What kind of trades were most valuable?
The sources highlight coopers. Those are barrel makers, essential for transporting goods, blacksmiths, and shoemakers.
There was that specific note about shoemakers that just blew my mind.
The one about a mulatto shoemaker being appraised at a value 3 times that of a prime field hand.
Yeah, 3 times. That's not a small difference. That is massive economic leverage.
It is. Think about it. If you're the only person in the county who can make and repair boots properly, even the most racist sheriff needs you. Your skill is your armor.
It's what the sources call portable skills.
Exactly. If the town burns down or a mob runs you out, you can't take your land with you, but you take your skill. You can set up shop anywhere. It's an asset that can't be seized.
Okay, so let's recap the playbook so far. You've used a trade to buy your freedom. You've used that freedom to buy land. You've established a secure home place. But you're still a tiny minority. You're still outnumbered.
Which brings us to strategy element 3, network power. This is the grow component of the strategy. And honestly, this is the part where the playbook goes from just smart to something overwhelming.
You're talking about the kids.
I'm talking about James Lyons of Flat Rock. The records indicate he had 30 children.
30. 30. That's not a typo. From one father.
30 children.
Hey, we have to pause there. I have 2 kids, and I'm exhausted all the time. 30 sounds less like a strategy and more like a logistical nightmare. How do you even feed 30 people?
It sounds like chaos to us in our modern world because we often view children as economic liabilities, expensive mouths to feed, college tuitions to save for.
Right.
But in 1840, in a rural agrarian economy, you have to completely flip your perspective. A child isn't a liability. A child is an asset.
An asset in what way? Labor.
Labor, yes, absolutely. More hands to work the farm, but much more importantly, security. Remember, there is no police force coming to help you if you're a free Black family. There is no insurance company if your barn burns down. Your kin is your only safety net.
So if you have 30 kids...
You have a platoon. You have your own workforce. And when those 30 kids grow up and marry, and the sources show they married very strategically into other free Black families like the Armfields and the Ashbys, you are building a dynasty.
It's like a royal family using marriage for alliances.
It is exactly that. It's like Game of Thrones, but played out in rural Virginia. You're creating a closed loop of resource retention.
A closed loop.
Yes. If one farm has a bad harvest, a brother's farm can help. If one person is threatened by a white neighbor, a dozen cousins can show up. The Magruder community kinship networks described in the sources were incredibly tight. They kept the land, the skills, and the wealth inside the family.
So they are growing. They're building this internal fortress of family, but they're also going, which is strategy element 4, system leverage.
This, to me, is the most sophisticated part of the whole playbook. They didn't just hide in their home places. They didn't retreat from the world. They actively infiltrated the critical infrastructure of the United States.
And the big one, the absolute monster of the 19th century, was the railroad.
The railroad was the internet, the interstate highway system, and the space program all rolled into one in the 1850s. It was the future. The sources detail this massive expansion, the Virginia Central Line, the Blue Ridge Tunnel.
I want to stop at the Blue Ridge Tunnel for a second because the sources call those records gritty. What was it actually like for the people working on that?
Hell on earth. It's hard for us to even imagine. This is the 1850s. They are blasting through solid granite. There's no OSHA, no modern ventilation fans. No,
Yes.
this is black powder, far more dangerous and unpredictable. So it's pitch black inside the mountain, lit only by flickering oil lamps. The air is thick with rock dust silica, which destroys your lungs, and the acrid smoke from the black powder blasts. It was brutal, deadly work.
And the Black Lyons were there.
They were. But here's the key to the strategy. They weren't just the disposable bodies pushing wheelbarrows. The goal was to secure skilled positions, brakemen, laborers who understood the mechanics of laying track, positions of responsibility.
Why go into that darkness?
Because that's where the money was, for one. But more importantly, that's where the leverage was. If you understood the railroad, you understood how goods, information, and people moved, you were essential to the expanding American economy. It was strategic ground.
And it wasn't just the railroad. The sources mention two other key systems, the church and the school.
The institutions of the mind and the soul. Founding their own churches gave them a place to gather, to organize politically, to plan, all without white oversight. It was a sanctuary.
And the schools?
Literacy was a weapon. In a world of contracts and deeds and laws designed to trick you, the ability to read was paramount. If you can read the contract for yourself, you can't be easily cheated. If you can write, you can communicate with family members miles away.
And finally, the last system they leveraged, the military.
The blood tax, you could call it. The sources note that Black Lyons served in all American wars. This is a profound strategic calculation. The argument is, I fought for this country, I bled for this country, therefore I am a citizen of this country.
It's the ultimate claim to belonging.
It is. Patriotism from both the front lines and, as the sources say, the shadows.
Okay, so that's the playbook. Let me see if I have it. Freedom via disciplined economics, security via land and a skilled trade, network power via massive families, and leverage via infiltrating key systems like the rail and the military.
It's a very robust, interlocking strategy, but
There's a but.
there's always a but. Systems push back. We can't paint this as a perfect, unbroken story of triumph. The outline mentions the displacement of that Magruder community.
Right. This happened much later, around the World War II era.
Yes. The U.S. Navy moves in. They need land for a new base, which they call Camp Peary.
Which is now famous as the CIA training ground, the farm, right?
That's the one. And the government uses the power of eminent domain. They take the land, that home place that Vicey Skipwith and generations of others had worked so hard to build and protect.
Gone.
Just gone, paved over for the needs of the state.
So doesn't that mean the strategy ultimately failed? I mean, the core asset, the land, was lost.
That is the pivotal question of this entire story. Did they lose the strategy or did they just lose the dirt?
What's the argument?
The argument is that the go-grow strategy had already done its work over the preceding century. They had built up so much human capital, the literacy, the trade skills, the unbreakable family bonds, that when the physical land was taken, the family unit didn't collapse.
They transplanted.
They took the software and they just ran it on new hardware. The strategy itself was portable.
Which brings us, finally, to the proof. The living seed.
Yes. Part 2. The modern implementation. We are jumping from the dusty records of the 1850s to a man named Stephen Antoine Boswell.
Born in Decatur, Georgia. The source material says he's 41 years old.
And he's the author of the biography we're using. He is the conscious link in this chain.
Now, I have to be honest again. When I first look at his biography, I see, a regular guy's life. He went to high school, went to Job Corps, got some college degrees, worked some interesting jobs. Is he really running a 250-year algorithm?
Yeah.
Or is he just a successful guy living his life?
And that's the beauty of it. To the naked eye, it looks like a normal, successful American life. But when you overlay his resume, his life choices, on top of the historical playbook we just outlined, the sync is startling. It is almost a perfect one-to-one match.
Okay, you're going to have to prove it to me.
Yeah.
Let's go pillar by pillar. Modern pillar 1, the skilled trade.
All right. Historically, we had Vicey Skipwith the cook. We had the blacksmiths, the shoemakers. The value was in portable skills you master with your hands.
And Stevens Path.
He attends Albany Job Corps in 2004 and then Brunswick Job Corps in 2006. What does he study? Welding and culinary arts.
Welding and cooking.
Stop and think about that for a second. Welding is the modern blacksmithing. It is literally joining metal with fire to build and repair the country's infrastructure. It is high skill, it can be dirty, and it is absolutely essential work.
And culinary arts is a direct echo of Vicey Skipwith.
It is a perfect echo. But look at the underlying strategy. He has secured portable skills. If the tech sector crashes tomorrow, or the financial markets go sideways, people still need to eat, and bridges and railroads still need to be welded. He has made himself economically bulletproof because he has a mastery of his hands.
Okay, I will definitely give you that one. That's a strong connection. But what about the systems? Let's talk about modern pillar 2, the railroad.
This is the one that really gave me chills when I was reading the documents. It is so literal, it's almost unbelievable.
He worked for a railroad.
After getting his welding trade, he lands a job at the Trinity Railroad Company in Carterville, Georgia.
He went back to the tracks.
He went right back to the tracks. His ancestors blasted the rock for the Blue Ridge Tunnel. Stephen enters the modern industrial rail complex as a skilled tradesman. He understood, either consciously or unconsciously, that heavy industry, the things that move the country, is where stability lies. He infiltrated the system, just like they did.
Okay, that is more than a weird coincidence.
Is it? Or is it a cultural value passed down through generations? Go where the big machines are, go where the real work gets done.
Fair point. Let's move to modern pillar 3, the military or the state force.
The historical echo is the Black Lyons serving in wars, the blood tax. Stephen's modern implementation is, again, incredibly direct. He gets employed at FLETC.
The Federal Law Enforcement Training Center.
Right. And what's his job there?
He's a chef.
Using that portable trade again.
And a specialized use of force instructor.
A use of force instructor. Let that sink in. Think about the historical parallel. The Black Lyons served in wars to demonstrate value and claim citizenship. They bore arms for the state. Stephen is literally teaching the agents of the federal state how to properly and effectively use force. He is inside the very heart of the security apparatus.
So he's not just working for the government, he's training it.
Yeah.
That is an extremely high level of infiltration and trust.
And notice the diversification again. He's a welder for private industry, a chef, and a federal instructor. He isn't putting all his eggs in one basket. He has multiple streams of value.
Which leads to the final, and I think maybe the most complex pillar, network power in education.
This corresponds directly to the historical home place and the absolute necessity of literacy. Stephen didn't stop with trades. The bio shows he pursued higher education aggressively.
Yeah, the bio lists a basketball scholarship at Denmark Technical College where he studied business and accounting, then Voorhees University for business management, and later, this is the really interesting one, actuarial science and risk management at Georgia State University.
Actuarial science. I really want to spend a minute here because this is, for me, the most brilliant sync of all.
Explain it for us. What exactly is actuarial science?
In the simplest terms, it's playing chess with death and money. It is the sophisticated mathematical modeling of risk. Insurance companies use actuaries to figure out the precise mathematical likelihood that you are going to crash your car or get sick or die young.
Okay, so it's very high-level math. How does that fit the historical playbook?
I want you to think about his ancestors again. If you are a free person of color in Virginia in 1820, what are you doing every single minute of every single day?
You're assessing risk, nonstop.
Exactly. Is that white man walking toward me drunk? Is this contract I'm about to sign valid? Is the sheriff in a bad mood today? Their entire existence was an exercise in intuitive risk management.
And
Stephen has taken that raw survival instinct and he has professionalized it. He has a degree in the very thing that kept his family alive for centuries.
That is actually profound when you put it that way. He took the generational trauma of constantly watching your back and turned it into a high-paying white-collar career.
Precisely. And let's not forget the other part of his identity. He's a genealogist. He literally describes himself in the bio as the author and direct descendant.
He's the archivist of the network.
Yes. Just as the home place relied on oral history and family Bibles to keep the network together, Stephen is using modern research methods to document and solidify the lineage. He's ensuring the code is not lost.
There's one more detail in his biography I want to touch on because I think it speaks to the grow part of the strategy. In 2007, his mom becomes terminally ill.
His mother, Susan Lyons Christian Boswell, the name Lyons is right there.
It is, and the bio says he exited his job at FLETC, came home, and cared for her remaining months until she passed away.
That is the kinship value in action. In a purely modern capitalist mindset, quitting a high-level federal job is a bad career move. It's a gap on your resume.
But not in this playbook.
Not in the go-grow strategy. In that strategy, the family is the primary asset. You protect the asset. He placed the values of the home place above his immediate income. That's a powerful choice.
So let's zoom out and put the two timelines side by side. It's almost uncanny.
Landowner-farmer managing a physical asset in my 2000s. Actuarial scientist managing risk and financial assets.
A direct upgrade.
1800s. Rail laborer in the Blue Ridge Tunnel, minus 2000s. Welder at Trinity Railroad.
The same system, century and a half later.
1800s. Soldier in the Union Army, minus 2000s. Use of force instructor for the federal government.
From serving the state to training the state.
And 1800s. James Lyons having 30 children to build a biological network, minus 2000s. Stephen Boswell, the genealogist, documenting and preserving the information network.
It's the same software, just running on a new operating system.
It makes you wonder. The sheer resilience of it all. As we said, they lost the physical land in Magruder, but they kept the code.
They kept the living seed. That's the term he uses for himself. He is the seed that was carried out of the garden before it was paved over. And he managed to find fertile ground and bloom in the 21st century.
It really challenges the way we tend to think about success in the modern world. We usually frame it as this hyper-individualistic thing. I worked hard, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps, I made it.
Right. The myth of the self-made man. But this story suggests that success, true long-term success, is a relay race. Stephen Boswell isn't starting from scratch. He's taking the baton from James Lyons and from Vicey Skipwith and from the unnamed men who choked on rock dust in that tunnel.
So what does this mean for the listener? I mean, this is a fascinating story, but most of us don't have a clue what our great-great-grandparents were doing. We don't have this playbook.
And that's the danger, isn't it? If you don't know the strategy, you can't run it. You might be doing parts of it by instinct, but you don't have the full picture.
The Black Lyons lineage is, when you strip it all down, a masterclass in long-term strategic planning.
It really is. And it teaches us that survival and advancement aren't about luck. They're about two core things. Infiltrating systems, that's the go, and expanding and protecting the clan. That's the grow.
It's also about diversification. You get the trade and the degree. You learn to work with your hands and with your mind. You build the bank account and you strengthen the family bonds.
And you never, ever stop adapting. The tools change. It goes from a blacksmith's hammer to a welding torch, from a cornfield to an actuarial table. But the function of those tools remains the same.
Security, liberty, agency.
And the core principles are timeless.
It makes me look at my own life a bit differently, I have to say. I'm over here worrying about my 5-year plan. I'm not thinking about my 250-year plan.
And that's the lesson for everyone, I think. If you aren't actively documenting your history, your family's stories of struggle and success, you're letting that software get deleted. And if you aren't building portable skills, things that have value no matter what the economy does, you're leaving yourself vulnerable.
Stephen Boswell's life proves that history doesn't just repeat itself, it iterates, it upgrades.
It does. It builds on itself.
So here is a final provocative thought for everyone listening. If a family strategy can survive 250 years of slavery, war, displacement, and segregation to produce a modern actuarial scientist and federal instructor, what kind of legacy are you planting today?
That is the big question.